fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction, he's got everything outside of both of them! Maloney!
Oh, he's taken Anderson! Anderson's up top!
Oh my god! Big crash! Oh my goodness, half the field's gonna get rolled!
Sec's very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly. Oh, there we go! Oh no! That's massive! This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my god!
God, what?
A place called Talladega with a modest population of just 15,000, but twice a year NASCAR comes knocking, and just north of the town centre, close to 100,000 fans descend on the longest oval on the NASCAR calendar, Talladega Superspeedway. 2.66 miles of full throttle, never lift, 3 wide, what about 4 wide action? And this is top split of the NASCAR iRacing series. Some of the biggest I-rated drivers on the service, some of them professional sim racers wrapped up in major esport organizations, others just here to have some fun and maybe even prove their worth to those elite teams. Still, even more on the path to stardom with pace in abundance. But outright speed often takes a backseat at a place like this. Who has the luck, the patience, and the ability to get it done here on round 10, live on the iRacing eSports Network and presented by SimSpeed TV. My name is Ryan Jones, alongside of me is Justin Prince, and as always, behind the scenes is Jay Kennedy. And Justin, this is going to be a really fun race.
Yeah, absolutely. This is such a wild racetrack when it comes to the action. 3-4 wide, as you talked about. Drivers looking to battle and try and stay clean throughout an entire race. It's going to be a wild one tonight from Talladega, to say the very least. It's going to be interesting who comes away with the checkered flag by the end of it all.
Most certainly 94 laps ahead of us, half distance of course, for most of the NIS season, with a couple full distance races scattered in there. Now qualifying is just kicking off, but don't expect many people to actually put qualifying times in. Here on the super speedways and iRacing, you generally see a lot of people opt to not put a time and start from the back, because you've got to avoid the carnage and the big one that comes with it. We expect it when we come racing at Daytona and Talladega, but where do you go to avoid it? Do you go out front and stay ahead of it, or do you get yourself further enough back that when it happens you can slow down and miss it, Justin?
That depends on team to team. I'm one of the types of drivers who likes to stay up towards the front, stay in front of the potential carnage as the races ensue. But many others elect to stay at the back, allow the action to heat up in that 3 wide in the lead group, maybe settle on back towards the middle to the back end of the pack and at the back end of the ticker, and hope to see the carnage happen in front of them and keep their noses clean. Tonight's going to be a wild one, as we talked about. You never know though, Ryan, when that big one is going to strike, or if you get multiple big ones on the circuit.
Well, there's 36 drivers out there, so the potential is certainly there. Now, this is top split, and these guys are some of the best when it comes to NASCAR on iRacing, so their ability is very high, and while you would expect them to be able to go 2-3 wide relatively easy, but as the race goes on, the aggression level starts to get turned up. The drivers start to get antsy, and that's when the mistakes creep in. At this speed, 200 miles an hour, 300 kilometers an hour plus, the slightest misjudgment or lapse of concentration of just half a second is what can trigger a mistake. And once you get turned around in front of the pack, it takes a lot of people with you. That's why we see it at this racetrack. That's why we expect it. It's also why we love it, because the anticipation, the tension is almost impalpable sometimes. This qualifying is now starting to get some times, and times are always going to be close at a place like this, but it's full throttle all the way around, and Joshua Campbell's currently out front. He looks like he ran the bottom of the racetrack for his first lap, which is interesting.
Yeah, Ryan, that's been something that's been coming into play for some of these drivers, feeling like they can gain more speed by going that line in the past year or so. Others will try and go below that yellow line on their second laps to try and get that extra little bit of speed on that apron. The difficulty of that, though, is making sure you don't slide up off the apron and bounce around that track, because there's so many bumps just above the yellow line, right where Mason Tessier is running, for example. That can scrub some speed as well. So it's going to be fun to see who will end up starting towards the front of the next minute or so. Remember, tonight's distance, 94 laps. These drivers in for what should be a strategy-filled race.
Certainly, speaking of that yellow line, remember, it's out of bounds. On a lot of ovals, you'll see people diving down onto the apron, but here at Talladega, you go below that yellow line, it's illegal to advance your position. The protest could be coming your way in these official races, so don't expect any drivers to head below that today. Just to keep that in mind as we go through today's event, but the strategy is going to be interesting. Expecting potentially a two-stop, Justin. Fuel windows somewhere in the region of 30-odd, 35 laps, and Garrett Maines actually going below the yellow line in the qualifying, which is a contentious issue. We see it in qualifying every now and then from drivers. Some people like it. Some people say that's illegal. What's your take on it, Justin?
I'm kind of one of those drivers who actually feels like it's a bit slower in some cases, depending on if you can't hold it full throttle on that part of the racetrack. So I never usually honestly go down below that yellow line in the middle of the tri-oval, because it ends up scrubbing an extra 2 miles an hour, in my opinion, based on how my driving style is. It comes down to preference. But overall, a good chunk of the field tonight putting in qualifying times.
17 in total, and this is how your 5,845 strength of field top split will line up. From Talladega Superspeedway, Brian Mercurio put it on the pole, and Raja Caruth, the Cup Series Pro, will start alongside him. Shauna Butler and Spencer Burns off the second row. David Brown and Joshua Campbell from 5th and 6th. Eddie Curter and Alex Fox, 7th and 8th. Justin Levine and Seth Knoll round out your top 10.
Mason Tessier starts in 11 tonight alongside Garrett Maines, one of the Bobby Dale Earnhardt Legacy Esports machines. In the following row, James Wenzel starts alongside Presley Sora. 15 spots see Sean Timmerman starting that spot with a 50.2 in qualifying, with Garrett Stracha in 16th spot. Only one other driver put in a qualifying time, and Alec Martinez. Rest of the drivers took provisionals, amongst them Caden Honeycutt, Donovan Strauss, Ryan Kuhn amongst the drivers who elected not to qualify.
And you'll see the rest of the starting lineup scroll through on your screen there. 36 drivers in total. And starting off the back will be Timu Toika, Max Brady as well. So this field here very much split. 17 drivers setting times, trying to get themselves to the front. The other half of the field starting that they don't want to be towards the front. Race conditions as well up on your screen. 47-degree track temp. Could make the tyre wear a little bit higher for these drivers out there. Tyre wear, not really much of an issue that's often talked about on these super speedways, but after 2 runs, it's definitely noticeable. It's a bit harder to keep the car pinned down off the inside of the corners, but in the same breath, when you come down to pit lane, Justin, you're taking a full tank of fuel. You're going to take tyres anyway because it is covered off by those two cans.
Absolutely. Where the strategy comes in, though, Ryan, is if you end up getting a caution flag, say, in the middle of a stint or early on in the stint, that's where some drivers may have to deal with those worn tires a bit, where it does see you push up a little bit more off turn 2, struggle to turn in just a little bit at the end of the run, rather, in turn 3, and deal with the bumps a little bit rougher down in that tri-oval. I think the tri-oval is going to be one of the crucial parts of tonight, though, because of how rough it can be. If you even make contact up bumper to bumper trying to push someone there, you're likely dancing around and causing trouble.
Speaking of the contact and pushing the rear bumper, expect a lot of it today. Through the corners, it's a little bit dicey. Drivers of this skill, they might be able to do it without causing chaos. You get hooked up to the right rear of their bumper through the corners if you're brave enough. But down the back straightaway and down the front area of the circuit, expect many bump drafts to occur as drivers try to give big shots and pull off big runs to try and advance their position in the order. It is hard to overtake if the field gets stacked up 2 and 3 abreast or 3 abreast. And you've got to make sure you're in the right spot at the right time to make your way to the front. But if you do it well and you are lined up with teammates and people that you're working with, you can go from the back to the front in the space of only a lap.
That's going to be the key tonight. Will you have your teammates around you to help them? Some of the drivers who qualify, they don't have that luxury. They basically will potentially might have to go up to the top line, find their teammates, and hook up with them. A lot of the drivers towards the back have that luxury of being able to get more quicker and finding their fellow teammates on the racetrack. Gonna be a fun one tonight because there's a good handful of drivers in this field, as well as some notable names throughout it, ready to try and get ready and take this green flag.
The pace car will take the left down to pit lane, in the words of the legendary Ricky Bobby, as the field comes to the start. It's time to shake and bake, baby. As we come to the start-finish line, green flag in the air, and we're racing from Talladega Superspeedway, the NASCAR iRacing Series. And a nice even start from the first few rows. They'll run nice and smooth, 2x2, down into 1 and 2.
And already that top line developing this week. It's been developing very quickly if you give good shots quickly. That's what Spencer Burns is doing already with Roger Carew, pushing him already up to the point.
Giving him a good push down this back straight away. Not quite enough for Carew to dive down low. If he does clear the inside line, he's got a decision to make. Does he leave the 12 out there by himself? Or does he try and clear Spencer Burns of the inside as well? Now that's where having friends comes in handy, because if he leaves him, Burns will remember that by the end of the race, and it could be a deciding factor. He's doing a fantastic job. He hooks up nicely to that back bumper. They're both going to clear that inside line. Burns going to slot down into the bottom, and Caruth goes to the front with a fantastic push from the 12.
Yeah, that was very impressive to get quickly to work on those pushes, but you've got to be careful in terms of the temperatures. Caruth, though, is giving Burns the inside line to take the race lead away.
And almost contact as well. Getting shuffled down to the back goes Brian Mercurio down on the apron. He'll have to go right to the rear end of the field. As now, look at 3 wide further back as the 19 starts to make some progress up high. The big push coming from the number 3. Right up at the very top of the racetrack. As to the front now goes Alex Fox, finds his way down low.
Yeah, already drivers getting very, very dicey here. It looks like Spencer wants to lead this race. Not being too patient right now, but already keep in mind, Justin Levine already trying to come up through this field along with many other drivers, 3 wide for second, third spot.
Seth Knoll up on the top there, leading that charge. He's going to get left out though as Caden Honeycutt decides he wants no part in that and dives to the middle line on the racetrack. Spencer Burns is going to get pushed back into the lead. Not quite able to clear Alex Fox. A lot of dicing up at the front as the lead changes hands. And jumping out of line is going to be the 21, Justin Levine, going backwards. And now Honeycutt's going to the top. And he's being followed very loyally by Jake Matheson in that.
Yeah, the Nexus cars already are showing their hand. They want to get track position in early, and they've got enough speed to just use 2 cars to drive around everybody from the back of the pack to the front.
Fantastic start from them, illustrating how you can work together nicely. And now they lead both lanes, with Honeycutt down low and Fox up top. They could be able to control the race from this position if they are smart about it, as Alex Fox is glued to the back bumper of Caden Honeycutt down on the low side. The top 8, 2x2, the small gap is formed further on back. Garrett Maines, 4th car in line up top as well, as now Spencer Burns gets to the outside.
I don't know if Spencer Burns, though, is going to have anybody who wants to go with him up on that top line and is already getting ditched to go to the back of the pack, but it's pretty clear what the strategy call is for the Nexus cars. They want to be able to control the top 2 lines if they can and dominate it. The problem is, no one wants to work with them. Leader's getting ditched again.
Great shuffling up here towards the front of the field then, as that is a great push from Raja Caruth to push Alex Fox. A couple car lengths clear of these guys now. It won't last very long, they'll get caught, but a promising sign for these two that they'll lock away in the back of their minds for later on in this event. Short Butler down on the inside, slowly clawing his way back up to them now. Big run coming for Honeycutt up top. Caruth doesn't dive up to block it, so Honeycutt's going to draw alongside him. The big push coming from Jake Matheson and Garrett Maines behind him up on the top side. Coming across to complete lap 6, head on to lap 7 here at Talladega. Been a very good start so far, and Honeycutt looks like he's going to lead this lap. Fantastic push from Matheson.
Yeah, they didn't get help to be able to keep that front row domination before. Looks like they might have a little bit more cars willing to work with them, though. One of the main things that has popped up about this entire week, Ryan, is the suck-up ability for some of these cars. You also, at the same time, don't want to be the lead car the whole entire race. That's why Matheson, I think, is already dropping back to let his car cool off, as well as to make sure he can save a little bit of fuel, because if you lead every lap, you're going to be down on fuel by the time you have to come to the pit lane.
Exactly. That's a massive talking point today as well, and Caden Honeycutt's going to dive out of the draft and go back there with him. When you're out front, you are full throttle. You are not lifting in the slightest. It uses more fuel than the guys behind, because in the toe and the slipstream, they can lift off the throttle a little bit and save some fuel back there. But they also have to worry about their engine temperature. If you suck up too close to the rear bumper of the car in front for too long, you'll get no air coming through the front of the car. The engine will start to skyrocket, and you will find yourself having to either get out of the draft, or you'll have a blowed engine very quickly, and that can spell disaster when that happens. So Seth Knoll goes back in front. It was Eddie Kerner that gave him the big push to get there. And now, the top 3, a single file. Garrett Maines, 3rd car in line back there.
Yeah, Maines, mind you, does have damage on that race car. You see on that back spoiler along with the whipper bill because of some of the contact from the first trouble when the lead shuffled out. But already, Donovan Strauss from near dead last, plus 32 to the race lead, right in front of the damaged race car remains.
Well, I think we know what Strauss's strategy is going to be. He wants to get out and lead this thing. But Seth Knoll has other ideas. Immediately made the switch back to the outside, got his car in front of Justin Levine, wasn't quite able to get pushed back to the front. Look a little bit behind, look at the big run that Spencer Burns and Raja Caruth have got. They are flying up on the 3rd line, trying to throw the block with Spencer Burns. There was no room for that, and just about squeezed his way around some contact.
There's a lot of space for 3 wide. There's not too many spaces here at Talladega for 4 wide. That was not the smartest move, and I think he's showing his displeasure here by already ditching Levine here on that top line. Very risky move, to say the very least, here at Talladega. But as this has all gone on, a lot of the drivers who elected not to qualify have been carving their way to the field. We talked about Steven Sneffen, the Junior Motorsports Travel Liaison, amongst some of the drivers cutting up through the field. Jordan Worth, also one of the drivers who before that was also taking the top line to come up to the lead. And already this lead group 2-3 wide again.
Yeah, Spencer Burns and Carruth again looking up high. So it's Seth Knoll who leads the inside. Sean Butler in the middle up there at the front. And then up top, 2 cars up there is Burns and Carruth. They might be better served to slot in line here behind this middle lane, and they'll move forward as Knoll moves up to cover off the run. Starting to see some blocks coming from your race leaders to try and work a few lanes here to keep themselves up the front. Unfortunately, through 3 and 4, wasn't able to get back down to the inside, and Kerner, big push from Donovan Strauss. In fact, both of them going to clear Seth Knoll. He'll go from 1st to 3rd.
I'll be honest, with the moves we're seeing from the 12 machine, I kind of wonder if he might have added a lot of extra tape. Most of these drivers tonight, Ryan, usually are in the 30 to 35% tape range at the start of the run. If you had 50, you're fast, yes. You don't usually need too many cars to work with, but you overheat and quickly. I think that's why he's making so many aggressive moves. He's made decisions with high amounts of tape before.
Garrett Maines finally gets himself to the front. He's been in and around there all race long, but now he gets himself to the head of the train, and he's leading the outside with Seth Knoll as help. Eddie Kerner decides to move up and try to cover him off, coming out of turn number 4. Good move there. Maines has no choice but to give him a push across the start-finish line. Remember, down at the exit of the tri-oval, the stripe here at Talladega, the run to the line just a little bit more prolonged, more opportunity for guys behind in the final lap to slingshot by the race leader. Bookmark that in the back of your minds for later on today.
Yeah, everyone's got a backpack full of bookmarks, just say the very least. And don't look now, the 3rd line already developing again. Seems like Burns has a friend with Rajah Carruth willing to work with him to try and get that line going. And it just seems that no one's been able to get a big enough run to get a push on Maines. Cars on the apron.
3 wide for the race lead. Garrett Maines up top. Going to get a helping hand from Burns. No. 4 wide for the race lead on lap number 14 of this event. Spencer Burns. Big momentum on the high line. Contact with Maines. Hip checks from Seth Knoll. They'll want to sort this out fairly quickly. Rajah Carruth immediately backed out and got the heck out of there. He wanted no part of that. He dropped a long way back, and that's what kills Spencer Burns' run. He now starts to lose momentum as everyone goes back by him. 2 wide restored up front.
And Spencer Burns is really showing that he's not afraid to be overly aggressive tonight, and he's been making some crazy moves. But there's almost that mindset, Ryan, this is going to sound crazy, of kind of being crazy, to kind of force drivers to give you that space, thinking you're going to try and make those types of moves. It's not working so far for Spencer Burns. It's working out well, though, for the drivers in the bottom and middle lines, though, to keep themselves in a good rhythm and in a good place in the race to try and maintain track position now.
Expect Burns to come back fairly quickly at some point in this event, back to the front, and he's already coming back 3 wide, but he's got no help at the moment. He finds Rajah Carruth again. Now, these 2 teammates, Justin, you are very up on who's who in terms of the esports organizations at the top level of NASCAR. Spencer and Carruth lined up together.
Well, that's actually one of the things I'm not quite thrilled about, to be quite frank, but I think it's kind of helpful, too, that you also have Blaze Crawford helping as well. Well, this team does have some alliances for Horizon, so, and some of the SPG machines, and we're seeing some of those cars hooking up on that top line right now, so I think the results show themselves. Who's working with one another? Raja Caruth. He's willing to work with Spencer Burns, and because that traffic on the bottom might be close for the race lead.
Lapped car down low, that's not where you want them as a race leader, but they all squeeze by him as they shuffle up the racetrack. Burns and Caruth cannot get away from each other on the racetrack. Caruth has been pushing Burns all race long in every attempt to get to the front. He only abandoned him when they went 4 wide. His engine may have got hot that time by, as they're scattered back there in the top few spots after that lap car just broke it up a little bit and sent everyone up the racetrack. Caruth will go backwards. Spencer Burns will find a place in line second on the top line, right behind Eddie Kerner. The inside with no help, 2 cars down low, 5 cars lined up top as Garrett Maines decides to switch to the bottom. Kerner's clear. Will he go to lead? He won't. He gets shuffled out to dry. He goes 3 wide as Burns gets up into the fence, checks up to 15 as well. They'll shoot backwards.
And those were 2 teammates that were trying to get that top line working. Spencer just drifted up the racetrack, and now him and Blaze Crawford have to be a bit heated now. Crawford losing tons of spots from all of that. Spencer now at the back end of the top line because of all that chaoticness, losing all their track positions in the 20s.
Lap 18 here, so expecting to be about halfway through the fuel run. When we get to about lap 30, saying it's a 35 lap run, we'll start to see drivers slowly start to migrate to the bottom. If you want to pit and you're up top, you're not getting the pit lane.
Yeah, absolutely. So when we see a lot of the drivers go to the bottom, that's where I think the sign will be drivers want to pit here. That bottom line has also been the dominant line because it's the shortest way around this entire racetrack. And that's why so many drivers are committed to stay in that line and preserve positions. The trickiness comes when you have the lap cars wanting the pack to swallow you up instead of moving up to the top line. That's what the past 2 cars have now done.
That's Mercurio, who was at the front. Remember, at the start of this race, got shuffled up by a little bit of contact, and now, hoping the pack's going to help him, Caden Honeycutt decides to give him a helping hand, and that means Mercurio will slot right into the middle of this leading group of cars. Should be in position for Lucky Dog should the caution come out, and he's not a part of it. That's the key bit there, who can be in a Lucky Dog spot, but at Talladega, you're never really safe of not being involved in the incident when it comes out. Now,
Here's the problem though in that Lucky Dog battle. Trevor Perry is also a lap down in the mix of this pack. He's seen what was happening with Mercurio and has already moved up to the middle line to work with one of his teammates in Spencer Burns to try and draft his way back up to that 9. So now that could heat up in the mix of the lead pack too.
A leading battle and a lap car battle here in the first dozen or so cars. Makes it very interesting. You spoke about the inside line being dominant because it's the shortest route around the track. That's all normal. You often need more cars up top to make that line work than you do at the bottom, which is why you see maybe 6 or 7 cars up top only just managing to overcome 4 or 5 cars down low. But that doesn't prevent someone giving a massive push at the back, which sends a chain reaction up this train of cars to push 2 or 3 guys clear of the inside line, which is what we've seen a few times already today.
Yeah, indeed. The corners, that's where you want to be is the bottom line. The middle line, if you want to be moving, it's going to end up gaining momentum like we're seeing here each and every time you're down the straightaway. So that's where you gain that extra 2 to 3 miles an hour to try and gain some track position. Then you lose it all back because of that shortest distance around mark. So it's kind of a chess match where you're trying to think, what line do I want to be at what time? Do I have anyone that's willing to help me? Is my spotter, if I have one, able to tell me what's coming in terms of momentum behind? It's all those play into a factor here, and that's why I think, in part, the top line is now developed for 3 wide again.
That was Donovan Strauss moving up ahead of Burns, who gave him the push, but Caruth left him to dry up there, went down to the middle lane, and the very top of the track is going to disintegrate with Donovan Strauss going backwards until he moves up to the front bumper of Burns. So you need a lot of people up on the 3rd line to make it work, unless you have a really good run when you go up there. So they'll go backwards and they'll have to try that again. Burns will rethink how he wants to make that one work. He's been trying it already today multiple times. Now Rajah Caruth is going to try it with no one to help him. He's up there on that third lane with no assistance. He's holding his own for now, but as he comes through the corner, he'll go backwards. Going to get some help from the 15 who moves up there to give him a push. That's Blaze Crawford who gets the rear bumper. Angel Levine goes up there as well. Now there's 3 cars, bumper to bumper, up on the third lane with Burns closing in as well in the background. Now they got some momentum up there. Here comes Levine for the lead of the race.
Yeah, and I think you've seen the momentum coming in. One of the things that gets that top line working, if you have someone willing to tandem draft you to the front to get clear, put you in a great spot. Levine, able to get clear of all 3 lines for the lead.
Dives to the top, right down to the bottom. Big move to take the lead away. He'll try to control the inside line now with Eddie Kerner losing that. And now having to give him a push on his right rear bumper. Slides up to the middle lane, right in front of Seth Knoll. Just had an opportunity to do it. He finds the gap and puts himself in the lead in the middle and straight back to the overall lead. Huge push coming from Knoll there. Can he clear the inside as well? He can. Fantastic job from them. That leaves the 31 of Alex Fox to lead the middle. And suddenly the inside with all the momentum.
Seems like Levine, though, wants to get that lead back. He does have a teammate on the bottom line in Garrett Maines. It's just Garrett Maines has no space to come up. Looks like he's trying to take the momentum to retake this lead down the back straightaway if he can get enough momentum.
See if Fox can give him a good push here. Out of turn 2, they should have the momentum over the inside line, down this back straightaway. Push as hard as you can down this back straightaway. Then get off their bumper by the corner, who does a better job of it. No one can clear each other this time by Fox. We'll have to wait a little bit longer to try and push Levine clear. He wants to push him clear too, because if he doesn't, he's going to have to really watch his engine temp. He wants to push Levine clear so Levine goes down low, then Fox can get some more air into his engine.
And that's where you limit that tape to the side if you want to be a lead car or a pusher. And that's what some of these drivers appear to have done, is may have added a little extra tape than they may have expected to be able to push. Now they might be trying to manage 270s throughout the pack in normal situations. Then when they go for the bump, they might be able to push for a lap or 2, then have to cool off once again and try and trail brake indoor, try and go 3/4 throttle. So all that's coming into factor early on here. All while we are approaching that first pit stop window and everybody still wants to get that valuable track position.
Hey, gets his try on the third lane again, Justin. It's Spencer Burns.
He is very committed on making that third line work along with some of his teammates in Rajah Caruth, isn't he?
He is. He's done a pretty decent job of it. He hasn't quite been able to get up to the top yet, but Levine's proved with the right help you can go to the lead up on the third line. He's got the 26 lined up behind him now, which is... Who is that 26? I can't find him there. Where is he?
26 is Trevor Perry, the
yes.
Lucky Dog car.
Oh, that's why I can't see him.
Remember, they hooked up to get Trevor Perry to get into a Lucky Dog spot. Everything's going crazy, though, in that middle line. Look at that.
Kerner goes down low, leaving Fox out front with nice cool air heading into his engine, as he would have wanted. He's getting a big help from the 29 as well of Steven Steffen. Now there's 3 lanes formed for the lead once again. Rajah Caruth is closing up on the back of the third line up top. Going to be 3 cars up there very shortly as Kerner getting a great push from Levine down low. He's pushing them through the corners, Levine. He's got a lot of confidence in his car and the car in front at the moment to give the helping hand through the corners, but now he has to back off. And that means the middle line's going to come, led by Alex Fox.
Yeah, he's been very committed, these drivers, to show they want to be able to lead. And look at that. Steven Steffen has quietly but surely found his way to the pusher car and the helper car in that middle line. Again, to try and get himself up to the front. He's really trying to hold up that top line to his right as well, though, with Burns wanting to try and get Fox clear.
Can't quite clear him now, though. So again, stuck side by side. Lap 29, getting close to the pit window now. At some stage in the next couple laps, we're going to see cars starting to dive down to the inside line. And the pit stop is a whole nother thing they've got to deal with. You're trying to get the car slowed down from over 200 miles an hour, 300 kilometers an hour, down to the pit road speed limit, which is like walking pace compared to what they're doing right now. And in a pack of cars, all trying to come down at once, because if you come by yourself, you're going to be in a world of trouble with no one to help draft when you get back up to racing speed. So when you come with other cars, it's so easy to run into people.
Oh, and Levine blew his engine.
Levine pops the motor and dives down to the apron. Fantastic job to get out of the way when that happens and no one wrecks, but smoke billowing from that car. He was committed to pushing, did a fantastic job, but he pushed a little bit too hard, and now he's going to have to come down to pit lane. He'll coast it back around, but his race, well, you got to say his race is probably done.
Yeah, that is going to take at least 35 minutes to repair the engine. By the time you're done with repairs, you're multiple laps down. Now the thought process again, about 5 laps or so, give or take, until we see drivers come down to the pit lane. It's going to be interesting how many drivers elect to come to here as teammates, or how many try and stretch the fuel tanks as long as they can. With that blown motor, it's really broken up the pack, and this is where some of the track position can be a factor if it goes green, and keep that in mind to try and make sure you stay in the lead pack if you want to be in it.
And suddenly the middle line's starting to disappear. They're all going down to the bottom. It was helped by that big checkup. But look at that. There's just 3 cars on the outside of those guys down low at the front. Although, very quickly, that middle line formed in the blink of an eye.
And that's a lap car now. That's going to make everyone try and swallow him up now. Everybody's shown their hand. They do not want to give up that bottom line now if they're a lap car, because they know they might not be able to get into the lucky dog spot. The past 3 lap cars have now done that in this race, and just like that, look at that. The pack has nearly closed back on up with the amount of suck up you can get from about a second on back.
Most certainly top 3 single file. 14, Max Brady, he faced towards the front, leading the charge. Up on the second line, but he's going backwards here. He was alongside Noel, now he's alongside Maines. Maines is going to clear him. And look out for Garrett Stracciota as well to get alongside him. Lap 33 now on the leaderboard of 94. Pit window lurking ever closer.
Yeah, and drivers haven't quite indicated quite yet. For the most part, they may come down, but most of the drivers are electing, you can see, to ride that bottom line here, Ryan. So everyone's starting to think about it, and others are thinking track position in the U moments.
That was a bad push from Eddie Kerner. Sent Strauss up the racetrack a little bit. Alex Fox had to backpedal very quickly to avoid giving Kerner a push. You never want to push the pusher, do you, Justin? If you're the 3rd car in line, you don't want to be giving a massive push to the 2nd car in line, because he's lined up to the leader. If you hit him wrong, he hits the leader wrong, leader goes around, big crash.
Exactly. It's very dangerous to have those 3-car tandem drafts or 4-car or so forth, because there's so many unknowns. If you push someone a little bit too hard in that mix, you're likely shuffling one of them up the racetrack and then clipping their back end if they're all tangled together. You do not want that as a driver. But keep in mind, that middle line developing once again, I think in part, because that's where, if you may have saved in the early part of the back of the field, this is where you gain that track position to get yourself back to the front of the pack if you want to be in it.
Yeah, most certainly. I think you might see the fuel window extend a couple laps beyond what we were expecting here, Justin, because there's been no big lurch down to the inside of the majority of the field, and we hit lap 35, which is when we were expecting it. Might get towards 40 laps here.
Give or take, yes. But it's still, in my opinion, Ryan, the 2-stop strategy window. It's way too long of a race to get yourself, in my opinion, a realistic 1-stopper, especially with the unknowns that can happen. And it looks like, again, That top line's dissipating, and drivers are trying to find holes, it seems, to get to the bottom.
Yeah, now they are starting to go down low. Let's see then. And into pit lane, lap 35, when we called it. Look at that, half the field comes down to pits. They're all dancing it in on the rears, trying to get it slowed down. But they all get into pit lane without issue.
Oh,
now,
they're crashing.
Oh no, they're crashing in pit lane. Timu Tweaker sideways and backs up into his pit box. These guys will want to hook themselves up coming off pit road. Vicente Salas having to back down pit lane to find his pit box. So a few drivers in the pits. Big pack of cars can often be a downfall. Maybe too many cars to get a nice draft hooked up when you come out of the pits. Eddie Kerner with the first car off pit road, Garrett Maines behind him. But already a big gap between the second and third cars coming off pits. As the rest of the field's going to come down. Oh, someone's completely overcooked it. Missed it by a few country miles. Goes through the tri-oval. They're going to be all by themselves. Who was that?
Max Brady, oh my goodness, I don't think I've seen anyone miss the pit lane that bad in a while.
It's like he missed the brake pedal in its entirety there. Didn't even get close to slowing it down. So the guys that pitted the first time by, Garrett Maines, Eddie Kerner, have got themselves out front of them all. They formed up very nicely, got a tandem draft going between the two of them. And they got about a 5, 6, maybe even a 10 car length advantage over Donovan Strauss and Brian Mercurio, who is a lap down, of course. They're going to fly by some of the cars coming out of pit lane here. Going to clean them up very easily. Big play from Kerner and Strauss. They're going to jump, from Maine, sorry. They're going to jump well out to the lead of the race.
And that's the advantage of being some of the first cars to pit. Yes, you're down on the fuel mileage game. However, you can get yourself track position.
Look in front, though, because actually, it's been very good for the guys that just pitted. They've actually come out just in front of Maines and wow, huge mind blank there. But the field's right there behind them, so they're not that far back. They'll close up, but certainly in the short run, it's been a very good stop for these two. But watch very quickly in the space of a couple laps, the top 20 will all be in a very tightly packed field once again. But we've made it through the pit stops without a caution. We did have drama, but no caution flew.
Yeah, it's been a very fun race so far, I think, especially for some of these guys. But again, if you're coming in, yes, you get a decent amount of position, but eventually this pack does indeed close up. It gets you, though, if you come in as the first drivers in, while down on the fuel number game, the track position to be at the head of the pack if you so desire it. The advantage of stretching it out, you're at the back of the pack, yes, you're likely going to be in the teens for some portion of the race, but you'll have that extra amount of fuel in case you need it to stretch your next run towards the next pit stop window.
On lap 34, I was saying the pit window might be a bit longer than we expected because there's been no dive to the inside for the majority of the field. In the space of a lap, they got themselves sorted, they all went down low, and half the field pitted on lap 35. That's how quickly these guys can sort themselves out. Great coordination, and there would have been a lot of communication going on in the driver chat as well, letting people know, hey, I'm pitting, don't run me over.
It looks like the Nexus cars are hooking up again here, Ryan. It's, again, similar to what we've seen early on. They want to be at the head of the field and try and get themselves in good position. That's what Will Norton's now done for his first stop of the race.
So Will Norton to the front, down on the bottom. Jake Matheson trying to push the high line. Or trying to get a push for the high line up top. It's going to come in the way of Donovan Strauss. Norton got a little bit squirrely down on the bottom of the back straightaway there. Lost the momentum for the inside, and Matheson was able to clear. That leaves Strauss up top now with the 34 lines up behind him. That is Sean Timmerman who's up there.
Yeah, and Timmerman quietly getting through this field. Mind you, he's one of the World of Outlaws pro drivers in the sprint cars this season on the iRacing service. He's making his way onto the Superspeedways. I've been quietly impressed by what he's been able to do in this race to quietly get himself now into the front of this pack.
Well, there is a slight similarity with this particular style of racing. A lot of modulation close to full throttle. Some of the racetracks they go racing at in the sprint car series, in the World of Outlaws sprint cars, features a very full throttle action with places like Eldora where you're just trying to modulate that throttle. Here at Superspeedway Racing, it's all about modulating that throttle pedal close to 100%. You never want to fully lift off, but you don't want to be full throttle all the time, because if you are, you're going to cause a wreck.
You're that, yeah, and you can't just go full throttle into somebody's back bumper the whole entire run. You'll blow up or end up shuffling someone or at the wrong place the wrong time. No, that's where you go, maybe 75% throttle, 9% throttle in some cases, even 25% throttle in some other cases. But it looks like more trouble in the top line.
That's Timmerman getting shuffled out, going backwards at 10 mile an hour. He's blown his motor as well. Second car to do it that we've seen today. You get hooked up to the back bumper of the car in front, your engine temps will skyrocket in the blink of an eye. And Timmerman, as soon as we mention how good of a job he's done to get to the front, engines popped and his race done as well. He will join Justin Levine down on the pit road pity party as 3 wide for the lead of the race now once again.
Turner showing he's got some friends that are willing to work with him. Take a look though, JD Willis now joined the party to join some of his teammates as well as a couple others as they now reach the lap traffic again.
They're 3 wide as they come across the lap traffic in a moment. They'll want to be a little bit cautious about that. As going backwards now is that third line. They'll slot back in to the middle as they navigate past number 11, the lapped car. Big run for Eddie Kerner to go to the lead of the race with help from Donovan Strauss again. Strauss doing a good job of pushing people when he gets in behind them. Just can't quite get himself back out into the lead of the race though. Now might be the time for it though as Sean Butler pulls up to his rear bumper.
Yeah, again, I think it's calming down a little bit with Donovan Strauss may have set up his car to be a helper car on this line. Might even be able to add some extra tape for later on if he wants to come away with the checkered flag, but might be one of those drivers just making sure if he's got a car in front, keep the engine cool, don't let it overheat too much, let it build up the momentum on that top line as everyone starts to build up speed behind you, like Stefan is doing at the moment, like Blaze Crawford is doing, what some of the other cars are doing as they reach here Max Brady.
Front two have managed to get themselves clear of the side-by-side action. Matheson and Kerner, who've done a very good job to keep themselves at the front as they'll go by another lapped car who stays down low, trying to get someone to pick them up in the draft, but it's not going to happen. That's the 14 that's going backwards. That's Max Brady, who we saw overshoot pit entry by as much as I've ever seen.
Yeah, now he's in a situation for Max Brady because of him missing the pit road. He's now one of the few drivers 2 laps down, so he's going to need to hope for a bit of luck to get himself back on the lead lap at this rate. What you do at this point, though, as a driver, just keep chugging along, keep yourself in the lead pack, and then hope for a little bit of luck. Just don't get yourself in trouble. But here comes Vicente Salas now, the next car to follow a lap down.
Oh, there's trouble behind. The big one's going to happen. Down through turn number 3, the field scatters. Cars everywhere. Caution comes out. Raja Karuth involved in that. Big damage to the front of his car. But there is plenty more that got caught up in that one. It all started. The field tried to start to shuffle around the laps car, and the field did not want to move.
It almost looked like, I think it was Alec Martinez who drove himself into the safer barrier ended up pinballing right across into some other cars on the top line. He was trying to follow one of the SPG machines, it looked like, and just ended up hitting the safer barrier right down the middle of the straightaway and came right into the quarter panel of the 15 and collected everybody else.
The 10 car, yeah, up into the safer barrier while pushing Caden Honeycutt. Sent him down to the inside. Alex Martinez turned the 15 around, which turned Honeycutt. Suddenly there's 3 cars spinning, and on the entry to the corners, very hard to miss. If you're a car immediately behind, a few went scattering through. Max Brady had an almighty slide through the grass. Managed to avoid it. But that is really unfortunate for Martinez. Just gripped the fence. That car was not in a good spot when he did that. Take a look from on board Max Brady here. They start to wreck. He takes a hard left turn to dive through the grass. Sideways re-entering. Gathers it up. That's why I always want to be on the inside, because you can just turn left and hope for the best.
Yeah, exactly. That's one of the benefits of staying on the bottom side, and why so many drivers elect to do it is it gives you an escape route towards that grass and towards the apron. If you're on the top line and drivers start swinging up, you're likely having nowhere to go at that point, but this is going to make it interesting. The pit window has opened back up for some drivers. Still a one-stopper on the fuel, though.
Yeah, so they're all back down on pit lane here. It's like 47-94, so we'll have to pit again. Even when the green flag comes back out, the race-off pit road was tight. Donovan Strauss and Eddie Kerner. I think Kerner got it. Like that, a bumper. Few cars look like they've stayed out. Spencer Burns opted to stay out.
I've been thinking there may have been a few more drivers who would have stayed out there, as it looks like he's going to try and play with the blue cone here. No, but I think his thought process is they have to pit anyway. May as well stay out, hopefully keep track position, keep towards the head of the field like he's been comfortable with all race, and see if there's a caution flag that forces everyone back down. And guess what? If he does get a caution in about 15-20 laps, he's likely going to be able to keep that track position. So it's a massive gamble, because if they go green, Ryan, from this point to where he runs out of fuel, he'll likely have nobody to draft with except for the drivers who are laps down, if that even happens, which may be cycled around the racetrack.
Yeah, exactly. We've got 29 cars on the lead lap here. Vicente Salas down on pit road, trying to stay on the lead lap. A few cars one lap down. Mercurio, Garrett Stratoda, Trevor Perry, Max Brady, all one off the pace. Mercurio should get the lucky dog. You would expect. Should get it when the field comes around the start-finish line this time by. We'll see, though.
They were trying to... Remember, they were trying to lap Salas, though, right before the caution flag.
Salas might have actually got it. And he's down on pit road after having got the lucky dog. Now it looks like Burns is going to come down to pit lane. So he decides not to stay out. Probably the best opportunity for him, just to put himself back on cycle with the guys who've pitted. Won't get caught out by the field game. Now this is an interesting time to have a caution, because you might not need 2 cans of fuel when you come down to pit road if we stay green here, Justin. And if you only need 1 can of fuel by the time you pit, I mean, you take 2 tires, or even no tires even.
Yeah. It's a strategy game from here, if it goes to that point, and that's where some of the major undercut strategies can come into play. If you have enough cars, Ryan, you can match, if not have faster pace than the giant pack that leads the field, if you do it right. If you have someone that tapes up your race car, say 50% tape as we talked about, have everyone else as cool as they can on the tape, even 25% tape to make sure they can push as long as they can, cycle the push car around behind them a couple dozen different times, they may be able to gain some of the time back that they lose by taking the early pit stop, and then in turn, they'd be in front of the pack if it works out. It's a difficult strategy to work out, though, Ryan, because you need to have enough clean, undamaged race cars to be able to have the same speed, if not faster speed, than the lead pack. If you only match or if are slower, it doesn't work.
Yeah, exactly. There's so much that goes into these races. It may be, full throttle. People may look at this and go, this is easy. We can assure you, it is not easy, is it, Justin? You've raced with a lot of these drivers, in top split. You've got a pretty handy iRating yourself, and you can, attest it takes a lot of skill to run up in this pack to make it as far as I did without having an incident and staying green. Been fantastic to see so far, but there's a lot more that goes into it than just riding around at close to full throttle. The strategy games, the intricate moves in and out of the line, trying to put yourself in the right time, trying to hook up with the right people. It's a lot of thoughts going through your head while you're running around at a racetrack at 200 miles an hour.
Exactly, and it looks like Eddie Carter's electing to go to the back of the field and maybe play the team management game and join some of his teammates at the back of the field in case things get crazy. But exactly, you have to think about, again, do you want to be patient for the first half of the race, or do you want to make sure you stay up towards the front? If you stay up towards the back of the field, you might be one of the drivers who have to somehow close in from the back of the pack and have a tandem draft up towards the front. You also have to be smart with what moves you take. Be aware of what lines everyone's having in terms of momentum. Do you go to the middle or top line at one point? Do you just stay on the bottom? Can you fit your car in front of some drivers? It's not as easy as just hitting the gas pedal and just following everyone in the line. You have to plan your moves and plan how your race is going to go. And the more teammates you have to help you with that, the better it gets in keeping that goal and executing it the way it needs to. That's what, say, some of the drivers you see in the back of the field, such as the Bobby Dale Earnhardt Legacy Esports drivers that now have that advantage. Two of them could now hook up and now work together. While the Nexus drivers, they didn't have to come down because guess what? They lined up in a way where they're still lined up on the bottom side for the start.
Certainly, Presley Sora up there in second place. He's come from nowhere. He started in 14th, but we haven't seen him up and around the leading group of drivers all race long. Suddenly he props up to second for the restart. So it'll be interesting to see how he goes here. To roll through 3 to 4, the lights out on the pace car will go back green this time as the field stacks up 2 by 2 once more. Will Norton and Shorter Butler off of row 2. James Wenzel, another new driver. David Brown, another new driver. A lot of new faces at the front for this restart. Going to be interesting to see how this all unfolds. Some of the drivers we've seen towards the front all race long, starting further back in the field. Going to have to work their way back through. So, a lot to shake out as we get ourselves back underway. Pace car, going to take that left-hand turn and get out of the way to unleash 30 plus NASCAR Cup cars back to full throttle conditions in Alabama at Talladega Superspeedway. Up in the flag stand, the green flag at the ready. For the second time today, we look to go back green as the green flag flies to go racing once again in Talladega.
I think some of the cars got caught sleeping a little bit on that top line on the start. Really checking things up in that group way quicker than I think some of the drivers expected.
Yeah, it was a good start initially up top, then it very quickly disintegrated. And now, no help at all for Presley Sora and Shorter Butler. Big cloud just rolled over the circuit and darkens up the racetrack for these drivers as well, which I just noticed. Now the outside closes up again. Jordan Worth closing that gap to third car in line. Guess what? Another new face at the front. So, it's a whole new gaggle of people running around at the front of this field. Will they put on as good of a show? I'd expect yes. Presley Sora with a huge push. He goes down to the inside to take that lead away. That leaves Shorter Butler to lead the outside line.
Butler's got a good friend behind him, and Jordan Worth willing to work with him, I think, to try and get himself forward. Here's the concern. Spencer Burns is behind him, and we've seen how many times Spencer Burns has been willing to go 3 wide as soon as he gets any bit of a run, and he's already backing up behind that 18 to try and get a run.
Yeah, Burns restarted outside the top 10, already back there in 6th, so making good progress early here. Let's see if he does go to make it 3 wide. Well, enough help from Rajah Caruth because he was caught up in the big one to bring out caution number 1 of the day. Took over to lap 53 of this event. Worth giving a big push to Butler. Might push him clear. Not quite this time. They stack up there in the middle of the corner. The run for the inside line through there. Very tight up top. As Jordan Worth had to backpedal there to avoid getting into the back of Butler through the corner. Look at the third line coming. The 24 up on the top of the racetrack with a big run. That's Robert Miller with help from Eddie Kerner as well.
Now one more Nexus car to add into the fray, shall we? Robert Miller with a very quiet race, starting to join some of his teammates who have been up towards the front much of the race. Some of his fellow compatriots electing to be in the second pack though this time because of already how crazy it's getting. Look at J-Bo on the top line.
Yeah, the 22 back there trying to close up to them as well. Gonna take just a little while to close up, but the third line starting to gain some momentum as Jordan Worth goes up there. So 3 full lines of cars up in the top dozen spots. 3 by 3 they run here at Talladega, lap 54 of 94, 40 to go. When we come across the stripe, with the restart, the aggression got turned up. Drivers want to be at the front now. They'll have to make another pit stop, but you've got to be in the right spot by the time that pit window opens.
Looks like David Brown wants to push Spencer Burns up towards the point. This is getting very, very dicey here. A little bit concerning if you're in the midst of this pack. Curious to see if anyone elects to try and back away. Here's the downside. The second pack has already lost a ton of ground by about half a second a lap.
They've dropped a long way off and not looking like they're going to catch up. Some torn up race cars in that little group that's preventing them from making their way forward. So the top 15, 16 cars all in this leading group was to the outside. In perfect tandem, Justin Vitello and Presley Sora, they shoot out in front. Sean Butler could not defend that for his life. And that's going to allow 3 cars to clear the inside. Spencer Burns goes down low as well. And now Vitello looks high again. Burns is going to go with him. And as quickly as Sora took the race lead away, he's going to lose it. A big push from Butler there.
And there's the teammates once again coming into play. If you don't have any friends around you, they'll likely try and shuffle you out. That's what they just did to the Indy Autosport machine at Sora, with the SPG machines both wanting to now control that top and bottom line. Here's the problem. Tonight, it has been extremely difficult to control. The most difficult it's been able to control those front 2 rows than I think we have ever seen at Talladega.
It has been dicey and back and forth at the front. No one's been able to control the front all race long. Can Justin Vitello manage to do it? I wouldn't put my money on it because there's big runs coming throughout the field every single lap. And again, the third line looking to form now, being led by that 24. Burns ducks down low, the middle line now just 3 cars strong.
And all this craziness has allowed everybody else to start to close back, who had dropped about a couple seconds behind. Look, Salas, brother, Strauss, along with Brady and a couple others have already closed their way back into the pack, because how much they've fallen off from this 3 wide battling. They slowed down by about 3/4 of a second a lap since they started fighting like this at the front.
Robert Miller is going to get left high and dry as Eddie Kerner and Jordan Worth abandon him up top and dive down to what is now the middle line. Caution's going to come out. There's an incident further back on the field, not at the front. It's the 23 of Mason Tessier that finds himself up on the banking and almost got stuck. Big burst of the throttle. Manages to get it off. We'll have to take a look at the replay to see what happened to him.
It looked like almost like Tessia had a major technical issue or something with the engine as soon as they got into turn 1. Not expecting a checkup. The SPG car just gives a bit of a shot, and Tessier spent a whole 2 corners trying to save this thing and keep it off the racetrack. Unfortunately, just kept on swinging it around to the point where it spun just to the edge of the apron.
Brings out caution number 2. And look at the lap number. This is basically the critical lap. They can make it home from here, Justin. A few caveats in that point. There's 3 potential green light checkered attempts to add on extra laps to this race for them to bear in mind. They have got caution laps that they'll be running under here, so everyone is going to dive down onto pit road now, and we're going to see a fight to the end now.
Wouldn't be surprised to see a couple drivers top off a second or third time as well, though, here, Ryan, just to make sure they're good, because remember, half the pack only got to lap 35. Most of the field was able to get to lap 36. It might get interesting to see who elects to do that top-off strategy to try and make sure they can push that little extra bit. And mind you, this is going to open up the crazy signals just a little bit. It could get more crazy since usually when drivers feel like they can make it on fuel, the intensity level picks up that much more at the superspeedways.
Every single NASCAR Cup car in all their horsepower and glory down onto pit road at Talladega Superspeedway, and we will cast our eyes to pit exit for the race off pit road. 4 tires, 2 cans of fuel. Who will win it off pit road? They can make it home from here. This is the money stop for these drivers. Max Brady gets the lucky dog. He'll get back on the lead lap. Spencer Burns, first car off. David Brown, Justin Vitello, Seth Knoll, and Eddie Kerner. Your first 5 cars to come off pit road. JD Willis stayed out.
I believe it's already on the racetrack with a lot of damage, but that's the perseverance you've seen with the lucky dog, though. For JD Willis, he's definitely going to have to come down again, especially with no hood. He's going to be a sitting duck if he stays out. Expect him to probably come in for, but Max Brady, remember, he was 2 laps down just a couple caution flags ago because of him being able to avoid the leaders in the first incident and being able to keep himself clean in the second green flag run. Brady's now back in contention here as long as he keeps the car clean and gets his way through the back of the pack.
Unfortunately, that lack of a hood probably going to hurt him a little bit here, Justin. Just a bit.
Again, I expect him to come down. I expect him to come down with the broken hood.
Unfortunately, I don't think that's going to get repaired particularly nicely for him. So he's going to be carrying that pretty significant damage. The interesting thing is the front of his car doesn't look that bad, does it, Justin? It almost looks clean with the, with the exception of the no hood thing. Look at it. It looks almost fine. A little bit of crinkling, but honestly, it's not that bad. So it's strange damage to his car almost.
I wouldn't say strange is the proper wording. It's more so not as bad as it could be. Let's put it that way, because with the current Superspeedway package, if you're not the lead car, you can get away with it as long as you have a car in front of you and a car behind you to keep you up to speed. Here's the problem with that. If you have damage on your race car, it usually gives everyone around you a red flag to stay away from you, and that's where the concerns come in if you do have it, even if you are at the exact same speed. It does, at that point where you don't have a hood, affect you. And remember, if you have motor damage, that could be absolutely killer to your race at Talladega.
Yes. That's often a talking point, isn't it? At these big tracks, not just the super speedways, but places like Michigan and Auto Club, the big, wide open racetracks where you're, very high speeds. Damage to your car is amplified, and it's very noticeable when you damage your motor or you damage the front right, the front left. You really see it. It's places like Bristol, Richmond, that you can damage the motor, not much, but ever so slightly, and damage the front of the car, and to an extent, get away with it. But somewhere like this, you need to keep your car as clean as you can. You need every last drop of speed possible. And you might not be leading the race, but if you're sat third, fourth, second, anywhere that's not the lead and somewhere you can generate a run coming into the final lap, you can win this race still.
It is a possibility, absolutely. It is ever so tougher to be that lead car, though, who gets that push towards the checker flag. You can, however, be that type of car who does help someone you may be friends with, or someone you respect on the racetrack, or someone you feel you're in a good position to help, be able to come and take away the checker flag and that mark. So it really comes down to who's around you, to be quite frank, Ryan. In that type of situation, and who's willing to do what, it's going to be interesting how this will fare out. And mind you, there is one wave-around car you already see there in the number 9, because he's wanting to get himself back in the lead lap. He might be needing a caution flag, though.
He might do. Good news for Mercurio, that car looks clean. We know why he went a lap down the big stack up in the first run of the race. If a caution comes out, he's back in the game. Once he gets back on the lead lap here, as long as he keeps that car nice and straight, he could still challenge this one. But he needs a few things to go his way. We will be well inside the fuel window as we go back green. So it's a straight up fight to the end now. Aggression levels for these drivers are going to be as high as they've been all race long. This is when you want to start to get to the front. Although, maybe not initially straight away, because still 30 laps to go is a long time, Justin. And you don't need all that long to get to the front. Some drivers might still want to bide their time at least a little bit.
Yeah, and that's why coming to 1 to go, you might see drivers elect to top off and come down one more time to be able to regroup as teammates and kind of go through the field together. That's what we just seen with some of the Nexus cars, in fact. That's what we just seen as well with a couple others as well, who elected to go to the back, bring themselves together, and work together to get to the front instead of being scatter-plotted apart and having to find your way that way. It makes it easier to make that plan of going to the front a little bit easier as things get checked up here behind the official iRacing pace cars. I believe Spencer Burns may or may not be watching this broadcast right now. Focus on the track, sir. Focus on the track.
Lights are out on that pace car, and Burns down on the apron will bring it back up onto the racetrack at some stage or another. Burns has been aggressive all race long. He might even take a hard left turn further into the apron. Burns has been aggressive all race long, hasn't he? And he's been rewarded with that by being at the front for what could be the money restart.
Been absolutely aggressive throughout this race tonight and has shown great speed. He's been aggressive, but at the same time, he's not been wanting to be aggressive for a reason. As he continues to, I think, just make sure there's a little bit extra fuel because of that GWC factor. Because you don't want to end up having to come down if you get a green-white checker to run out of fuel on the second or third attempt.
Most certainly, if you get towards attempts 2, attempt 3, each attempt has the potential to add on close to a lap of fuel to the car at full throttle. Because, of course, if you make it back to the white flag, you're going to come back to the check no matter what happens. But even the laps on the caution don't use up much fuel, but they do use up some fuel. So you've got to be careful when you add on close to 10 laps of caution running. We're going to come through the tri-oval here with 33 laps to go, 32 as we come back to the green. For the third time today, looking for that green flag here in Talladega Superspeedway. It's in the air, and we're back racing. Great job from Spencer Burns. Everyone's hooked up nicely here. They're going on the green in Talladega because there's no point getting a big jump, otherwise you'll get run over from behind. So it keeps them all very tightly packed off these restarts. And everyone all over each other's back bumper trying to get a good push.
And it looks like already decided to work with Brown. He wants to try work with him instead of Jabo here to try and get that 16 machine clear, I believe. So Jonathan Strauss now in that same line, and everyone's starting to get shuffled around.
Burns working both lines, dives back down to the bottom for the corner, and Brown trying to work it up in the middle with help from Donovan Strauss, gives him a big shot as they come through the tri-oval. 2 cars up top, 3 cars down low, then a gap of about half a car length back to the next car in line for both of them. If the 32 can close up here, the outside well and truly in with a chance. That's Presley Sora back there, who just can't suck up to the back of Strauss. Now Eddie Kerner's going to fill that gap, and suddenly the inside facing the gargantuan task, but Sora back down to the bottom.
Yeah, a little bit concerning with the amount of shuffling, to have to be quite frank already here, and this time it looks like Burns does have a bit of help with J-Bo. I think what Burns might be trying to think about is something what we've seen last in 2018, control the bubble. Try and go up to the middle line, down the back straightaway, control that line as the fastest line, move to the bottom in the corners. It's not easy though with this package because of how much speed you build up. It's not as much off-throttle time and reaction time from the car itself to build up speed if you try and do that.
Look how tightly packed these leading cars are now, as much as they've been all race long. Big push for David Brown to push him to the lead. It stacked up the outside behind him, but he didn't care about that because he's left them with the help of Spencer Burns. But Burns is clear, so he's going to look high ahead of Strauss, but Strauss does not want to give him a push. He goes all the way to the top of the racetrack, and suddenly Burns, with absolutely no help in the middle, he's being left out by everyone as Will Norton, Eddie Kerner go up top as well. Finally, someone comes to the rear bumper of Spencer Burns to give him a help, but he lost out big time there. It was Steven Stephan that rescued him. Kerner gets turned up into the fence, and Seth Knowles turned around down on the back straightaway. They continue to wreck. Caution's out.
That was not pretty. Not pretty at all. And just, I think, a chain reaction of what happened there for everybody else. Kerner got bump drafted in the middle of the corner. We talked about you don't want to do that at Talladega. That's exactly what just triggered our second multi-car incident of this race.
I tell you what, they almost avoided Eddie Kerner. It was the reaction of other drivers to avoid him, though, that caused the incident, unfortunately, as Noel checked up, turned around by Garrett Maines, and then a few cars went around on the back straight away. Thankfully, not too many cars involved in that crash, and a lot of people going for spins without actually making contact with the fence. Seth Knoll, one of them. So his car not beat up at all. But it does bring out the caution, and it will cycle those guys to the back. You can see there, Noel had to check up from the reaction up top. Oh, he did find the fence, excuse me. And he found it pretty big as well.
Yeah, and the car that got into him, I believe it may have been Garrett Maines that ended up getting some of the contact. Yes, on the back bumper, and that as that machine bobbled around, crushed a nose, but things changed quickly here, do they not, once you get fuel? As expected, intensity level picked up. Just much quicker than I think we expected for Donovan Strauss to take this lead.
Yeah, so Strauss will head into this caution period in the lead. Don't expect anyone to pit road here, Justin, being just 28 to go. I think they'll be comfortable for fuel, given the amount of caution laps they've already run on these tyres. But here on the iRacing Esports Network, we're going to run side by side and go to an ad break here, thanks to SimSpeed TV. When we come back, under 25 laps to go at Talladega.
coming up to the line, being chased, and it was Braden Johnson. Unbelievable finish. It was 1/1000th of a second between them.
Green flag in the air. We are racing in the 2020 24 Hours of Daytona.
They go door to door for the feature race lead here on the last lap of the race. Side by side for the race lead in the final corner at Homestead.
Down the back straightaway, 3 wide again for the race lead. This is unbelievable stuff here tonight.
Loma is going to have to be very deep on the brakes, and he is very deep on the brakes. It's side by side through the corner. This is for the win.
It'll be side by side. Davies low, Ottinger high. To the very inside is Garrett Low. 4 wide at the stripe. For all he's with here on this outside line, neck and neck. Who's going to back out? Does anyone back out? Verstappen starts to squeeze on the inside, and now he'll try and straight line it. Goes under the apron, drag race to the line. It's so close to call.
Welcome back to Talladega Superspeedway here in Alabama of the NASCAR iRacing Series, live on the iRacing Esports Network, brought to you by SimSpeed TV. Once again, my name is Ryan Jones, and Justin Prince is alongside me. Behind the scenes, pushing all the buttons, is Jay Kennedy. We've seen a fantastic race so far, Justin. 24 laps to go, and we go back green. Intensity going to get turned up once again.
Yeah, this is going to get crazy once more, and it's pretty clear. The intensity is already ramped more and more up, and now after what happened, I think the emotions are going to be even more higher now. Expect it to be pretty crazy in the first 10 laps or so from the green flag, but around 15 or 14 to go, that's when we'll start to see drivers plan their moves to get themselves into position here to take home this checker flag.
Most certainly, and Spencer Burns copping a bit of flat for the incident as it turned Eddie Kerner up into the fence. Started a chain reaction that's been a couple cars around. So who is going to want to work with him now? That's the issue for him. You need help 9 times out of 10 to get it done at Talladega. Burns needs someone that's still going to go with him here.
He does have a few teammates that are a few rows back or so. I think he might have the chance to work with. He's worked well with David Brown as well. He's got a few cars who are still in that position. Now, the drivers around him might think about what just happened and take that into account as well. So keep in mind, there could be a lot of shuffling and trying to squeeze drivers out here when they go into turn 3.
There's a few damaged cars up and around the top dozen as well. Rajah Caruth, his car is beat to a pulp. He's currently 10th. So watch out for some of these cars to be a bit slow off this restart. And maybe check up the field through no fault of their own, other than the fact that avoiding the crash put them in a pretty handy spot for the restart. With 24 laps to go. Green flag once again is back in the air to get us back underway. Good restart for David Brown. He almost got in front of Donovan Strauss there. A bumper ahead of him down into turn 1 as the big pushes start to come. And further back, people start to try and shuffle around these slower damaged cars.
It looks like a couple of the Nexus drivers trying to find a way to hook up in the back part of the grouping, but really thinned out way quicker than I think either of us expected here amongst the top 7 or so cars. Everybody else is getting crazy right behind them.
Yeah, 3 wide behind them. Rajah Caruth, Caden Honeycutt, Jake Matheson going nowhere in the middle, the inside flying by them. 2 cars up top trying to find a way by. I believe that would be Robert Miller. And, oh no, to the inside. Oh, that was close. That was very close. Caruth was sideways through the tri-oval contact with Sora. He gathered it up and we stayed green, but that was very close.
That could have been absolutely dangerous here, and that's where that intensity level goes up. They're really still shuffling along like crazy to try and figure out how they want to line up. Looks like a bunch of drivers are trying to make a third line with that grouping, but the second line just hasn't formed up well with Brown leading it.
Donovan Strauss, a tight move up in front of David Brown through 3 and 4. Gets himself to the lead of the outside lane. And he's going to get the push now to go clear of Spencer Burns down low. David Brown will go with him, but he won't go to the inside. He'll stay up top. Steven Steffen trying to push him clear now. The outside, the place to be at the moment as the caution is going to come out once again for an incident towards the back of the field. A single car spin down on the apron. JD Willis.
And if you see someone spin around like that at Talladega, he probably had help, and that was the case. Alex Fox was trying to find a way behind him. That's that red and black 31. Try to go to the right side of him coming out of the tri-oval, and that's where it got a bit tricky because the yellow line, it goes from 4 lanes in the tri-oval down to 3. Willis was following the yellow line. Fox was not. Bye-bye, Willis.
Big contact and sent around like a spin top there. Tanner Love, the car that got into him up against the fence. He might have escaped without too much damage, Tanner Love. You see it on board from his perspective. Very suddenly, that car is sideways right in front of him. Nothing he can do. He gets into him. And he's very carrying quite a bit of damage, actually, from that. It was big contact.
Yeah, it looks like Mike got some damage on the right front. May have had a little bit before, added a little bit more, but time of the caution flag just changed the dynamics of how they'll line up again. All of a sudden, the drivers who were trying to get that middle line working, they now are set up in first and third, Brown and Steffen, and the bottom of row 1 and 2.
As always seems to be the case at these racetracks, the cautions fly thick and fast towards the end, don't they? Because no one's giving an inch they give at the start of the race.
No, it is points paying time. It's money time. It's whatever you like to call it time. It's when everyone knows the positions matter. Some are in that conversation point of track position doesn't matter for some until this part of the race, because this is where you end up getting your final results around this time. Here's the problem with that everybody tries to find the way at the same front at the same time with so many different strategies, and they all converge at the same time to the point where it gets hectic. And that's exactly what's been going on now with how things have shaped out in the last few restarts here. Everyone knows they can make it on fuel. They're all trying to get to the same place at the same time, and it's just leading to trouble in some of these cases.
Here it is, and I thought it's been clean at the front-ish though. 2 cautions that have come out have been incidents at the back. We've seen 1 incident towards the back of the front pack, and then that incident with Burns and Kerner, which didn't involve that many cars. There's still a lot of people in the contention here at the moment that could win this race. A lot of clean cars still out there. Another 20 laps to go.
Yeah, decent amount of clean cars, in fact. But here's this tricky situation again. We've seen how the top 7 or 8 got that good launch of the last green flag. It just seemed like the drivers who were about 9th on back, and that's where some of the cars with a little bit of damage have popped up, are just struggling to get enough speed, it seems, to build up enough momentum to get by one another. Even the drivers who have clean cars, who elected to top off and work together, it's just not worked well towards the direction yet, to where they haven't been able to get enough laps, or in turn haven't been able to get enough of a run to get by everybody because everybody's going 3 wide, and that's caused a tricky wicket of a situation for some of these cars now.
And when they are 3 wide and you need to find a way through, and it's very close to the end, that's when you start to see people try the 4 wide. Now, 4 wide, if it's possible with any track for a prolonged time, it's Talladega. But in saying that, it doesn't mean it's easy. It's not easy by a long shot. It is difficult, man. You have to have the right people in it with you. If you have just one person who isn't confident in doing it, it's going to turn to disaster in a matter of seconds. But it is possible. We've seen it happen in real life. We've seen it happen on occasion in the Coca-Cola series. But you can't be relying on taking up 4 wide to get through the pack. You need to get through the pack and be at the front before things get crazy.
When the NASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series drivers run in the NAS races, it does get to that point as well. It happened in 2019 a couple times, Ryan. It just requires the precise amount of racecraft and space given to your fellow competitors. What I mean by that is, if you end up going even a quarter lane too high up in any one of those grooves in that 4 wide, you're likely hitting someone in the door because they're trying to make sure they don't hit the safer barrier on the top line, try not to hit one another in the middle lines, and try not to hit the apron on the bottom lines or push up into the rest of the traffic. It takes perfect precision to get it done, to be able to, as a whole field, to run it 4 wide. That's why, in a lot of cases, we haven't seen it too many times tonight, because it takes a lot of confidence to be able to stick 4 wide, even with a couple cars wide.
Strength of field of 5,845 though tonight. The talent's there. It's just whether they want to go there. It depends if it's necessary. Some drivers, the drivers that are willing to take it 4 wide, if they're already at the front, well, there's no reason to go 4 wide. No one's going to take it. Spencer Burns is someone I'm going to earmark to be probably the first driver to try it. He already did it once today, Justin, if you remember. And when he did it, Rajah Caruth immediately, he was pushing him, said, nope, I'm out of this. And went backwards at a rate of knots. And Burns couldn't get the momentum up there. But you try it again now, people are going to go with you.
As long as you don't blow the motor, absolutely. Because they know it might be one of the moves that gets them in the position to win the race. Especially once you reach that 10 to go mark or so. Here's the concern though. Remember, a lot of drivers ended up coming down for their expected final pit stops now 30, 40 minutes ago. Whatever they said at that tape, they're likely stuck on that. So if they wanted to be just a pusher, too bad. It might make you a struggle as a lead car. If you add a tape, but need to push somebody, be careful. You might be one of the next cars who will blow up. Remember, we've already had 2 of them tonight blow up from being pushed, or being pushers rather.
Yeah, it was Justin Levine, and Justin Levine was the first one to blow his motor. Second one, Justin, who was it actually?
Sean Timmerman.
Sean Timmerman, who we'd just been highlighting was doing a good job, hadn't we? And then he popped his motor. But it's so easy to do. In the heat of the moment, you can miss the flashing red light that says your motor's gonna blow, or even when you see it, you're just in a situation where you can't get out of the draft. You're stuck there until it goes, because you get yourself in the middle of 3 wide. Where are you supposed to go if your motor overheats? And when you think of the action, when you're trying to keep it clean, not hit the car to your left, not hit the car to the right, don't run over the car in front of you, hold your line. Sometimes you don't think about the engine. Sometimes.
Yeah, you're hoping it doesn't go at that exact moment. And to clarify for the fans watching along tonight, if you go above 284 degrees on the oil temp Fahrenheit, or above 265 water, you are likely going to pop the motor if you stay up there for a significant amount of time. The max you can go realistically is 290. It can go anytime between that, though, based on your water pressures on your digital dashboard. So as a driver, you have to watch all of that to see, can I push somebody? If you're at that point where your pressures are, say, in the high 70s, low 80s, you're likely going to blow up if you try and push somebody within a half a lap.
Yeah, it's not a set point where it's going to blow at this temperature every single time. It's simulated, as it would be in real life, where the engine needs a certain amount of air going through it to cool it down. And depending on a lot of different factors, the temperature of the engine when it blows can be different for people out there on the track. Well, that's why people get caught out by it sometimes. So it goes earlier than they expect. But the lights are out of the pace car. We're going to go back green, this time by as pace car comes out of turn number 4. 17 laps to go as we come back to the green. The race coming to its conclusion. Can we get a green run to the end as a grandstand finish that we are looking for in round 10 of the NASCAR iRacing Series here on the iRacing Esports Network? Talladega Superspeedway's put on a show so far. What does the finale have in store for us? As the green flag flies, once again, back underway.
Look at that, the top line got an absolutely perfect start already. Donovan Strauss getting a huge shot from Burns.
Gonna give him a push through the corner 2. Now he unhooks as they come out of turn 2. This should be where the outside prevails. Didn't quite hook up nicely straight away. Now momentum starting to come for Strauss. But Stefan doing a fantastic job of pushing Brown on the inside. And the outside were not able to clear. David Brown down low. They are formed up very nicely. The first 4 cars here, they are hooked up bumper to bumper. Brown and Stefan down low. Strauss and Burns up high. Behind them, Trevor Perry, Will Norton. Max Brady is inside of the top 10. And Jordan Werft as well. Brady has fought back from a wild pit stop to put himself in a very good spot.
And, oh boy, someone's off to the inside.
Perry. Oh no, in front of them around. Goes cars in front of the field. Strauss up onto his side. Gets airtime. Collected again. A lot of cars caught up in this one. That's the second big one of the day. And as soon as we go back green under caution almost again, as second and third place came together on the back straight away in front of the field, nowhere for people to go.
Not sure what exactly happened with Perry for him to dart his way to the apron. I don't think that was the cause of the incident. The cause of the incident was just a little bit of a drift up by Stefan right into the left front fender of Burns. Just keep an eye right here. Because Perry, I think, may have cradled the apron, and then right there, you see the drift up by Stefan, and around goes the field.
Now, the interesting is Trevor Perry, did he miss that incident? If he did, there is an angel watching over him. He didn't.
It's that 26 right there.
There he is. He almost accidentally pulled an absolute blinder, and he was just collected by the 52 there. And big contact as he bounced off the fence, so big damage to him. It looked like he just clipped the apron, which is what turned him down to the inside. You know, I'm looking at the crash from another angle. I think it was actually Spencer Burns coming down the racetrack into the right rear of Sim Stefan.
Almost looked a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B, as I like to phrase it a little bit, where Burns did indeed try and come down and pinch a little bit, but Stefan also pushed up a little bit and away from the yellow line. But for drivers like Matheson, just no time to react. They tried to get to as low as they could. Problem was, there was a car already there.
It's a close quarter action. The things that happen at the end of the racing, not just in iRacing, but in real life as well. 15 to go. With another quick break here, with another quick caution here, we'll throw another little ad break. We'll get ready for an absolute grandstand finish. We are going to finish this one under green. There's 3 green white jugget attempts. It will take a very concerted effort to finish this one yellow. Get ready. Grab some popcorn. This finish is going to be wild. We return on the iRacing Esports Network to Talladega Superspeedway. Still pacing under this latest caution, a string of caution flags towards the end of this race. But that's what we expect when you come racing on a superspeedway.
Yeah, absolutely, and it got absolutely crazy. I think it got much more crazier again than anyone in the field wanted to have happen, but this is going to absolutely open up a lot of doors for drivers we haven't talked much about to be in the conversation. Jordan Worth now in a good position to try and come away with the win if he can somehow get some good runs with this damage. Max Brady, coming back from 2 laps down, has been a significant story in this race. He's in third. And how we even mentioned the name Patrick Moose all broadcast long, he's 25 positions gained from his qualifying spot.
Yeah, exactly. And Timu Toika as well. He's been at the back all race long. He's suddenly propped up to 8th. And he started dead last in this race.
And was involved in the first caution flag, was he not?
Yep, he was.
This is why perseverance comes into play. You can gain positions and get yourself back in the conversation.
I mean, we've seen some crazy things happen in real life. We've seen races finish where every single car coming across that start-finish stripe is torn up, and the race-winning car looks like it shouldn't even be allowed out on the racetrack. At places like this, you have to expect the unexpected. If you get involved in a crash, stay out there, because you never know what's going to happen. You know when the race comes to its conclusion, a lot of people are going to get torn up out there. And even with your beat-up race car, you can still come away with a very good result. And on the white flag, you don't throw a caution. There's no cautions once you get the white flag.
Yeah.
If the leaders wreck, there's an opportunity for someone to pull an absolute Stephen Bradbury and just come through them all. So it's never over of these racetracks. You never know what's going to happen.
Exactly, and that's why guys like Justin Levine are on that racetrack still. He's in 35th position, yes, but 2 things. 1, we talk about SOF in iRating. He ends the race early. He's likely the last car, loses a ton of valuable iRating positions. In terms of iRating points, I should rather say. That will affect his Road to Pro campaign. Keeps him on the racetrack. You can also gain positions in turn for a better finishing result for everyone we just seen in the pit lane who can't start their motors up. So for guys like Aveen, yes, you're out of the conversation for the win. But at the same time, you're in the conversation for a top 30 potentially still.
Exactly. It's not all about winning. Sometimes you have to take what you can get. Lights out on the pace car, 1 to go under this caution period. I've got a question. I mentioned pulling absolute Stephen Bradbury. Do you know that reference, Justin?
No, I do not.
Oh, no. And it's occurred to me that probably most of our viewers are not Australian either. Stephen Bradbury, quick history lesson, folks, is a legend of Australian sport. He won... what was the name of the competition? Help me out behind the scenes, Jay. He won the speed skating gold medal in the Winter Olympics by running dead last for the entire race. Everyone in front of him crashed at the final corner, and he won. Twice. But most importantly, in the final when it mattered, and he got the gold medal from dead last. So here in Australia, this is what we would call a Bradbury if someone comes through when everyone else falls apart in front of you. And at a place like this, it's where we expect it.
Absolutely. I've seen drivers come from 14th, second pack, maybe on their own even in a modified, win because all the leaders crash. There have been cases where we've seen drivers in real life like Dale Earnhardt cut their way from 17th to 1st in the span of about 5 to 7 laps. There's been some interesting finishes at Talladega on the iRacing service. Let's put it that way. This is about to be another one of them.
Yes, I think you're right. 11 laps to go when we come across the stripe. Almost holding my breath in anticipation of this restart. praying it goes green to the end because I want to see the dicing up front as drivers try to come off the victor here in Talladega. 11 laps to go. Back into the restart zone. Green flag once again in Talladega. Good restart for David Brown. Jordan Worth did not get a good launch up top. Look at the gap from second to third on the inside. Immediately going to be filled by Sean Butler. And he sucks up onto the back of the number 14 of Max Brady, who's now in second.
Seth Noah tried to jump out and jump the start, cut to the third line. Everybody's ditching him because of that decision. He's going all the way to the back of the field behind the leaders.
It's too wide up front. How long will that last before they go 3 wide, maybe more? Jordan Worth leading the charge up on the top. Patrick Moose looks to his right rear, tucks back in line. But here comes Max Brady from 2 laps down. With help from Jordan Worth, he goes to the lead of the race. What a comeback for Brady. Can he keep it going as he shoots out in front? And he leaves it at Talladega, trying to get Jordan Worth clear as well. He'll stay loyal to the top line out of turn number 2. Worth might be able to clear the inside, down his back straight away. The outside working very well at the moment.
The outside actually has more cars. There's the cut to the inside for Brady. Bottom line starting to get momentum, and Brown now gives him a shove.
Worth moves up the track. That allows Moose to lead the middle line, and Worth will go backwards up on that third line with no one to help him. Suddenly, no one on the outside, but as soon as I say that, Butler and Brown make the move up top. Brady can't defend. He's got no help from behind. Brown back to the lead. Butler tries to get to his inside, but Brown covers him off. Butler straight back up the racetrack, and Patrick Moose shoots to his inside.
This is going to get ugly here, and some teammates are starting to cut their way up. Ryan Kuhn working his way with Garrett Maines, 2 now.
Garrett Maines involved in an earlier crash, making his way back through the field. So many fairy tale stories up and around this leading pack of drivers persevering and coming back to the front after huge dramas early. We're in the middle of this race. But who can complete the tale? At the moment, it's David Brown. Behind him, Patrick Moose. Up top, Sean Butler starting to get the momentum once again with help from Timo Toika.
How about that for Timo Toika? Absolutely. This has been a phenomenally crazy race for Toika. Plus 31, involved in the first caution flag. Now might be the helper car, and he's got a huge run here. Good opportunity, just can't suck up though with some of that damage.
Toika couldn't quite get to the back bumper of Butler quick enough, and Butler lost the big run he had off turn number 2. Allowed Brown to pull back out in front. Through 3 and 4, coming back to the stripe with 7 laps to go. Toika not staying glued to the back of Sean Butler. It's hampering him at the moment. Toika just can't stay on that rear bumper at the moment. Behind Toika, trying to push him along, is Garrett Maines and Ryan Kuhn, but the outside not working quite as nicely as they'd want at the moment.
And just can't close up because of some of that damage from the first caution flag. Losing a lot of time scrubbing speed in the middle of the corners. That's hurting that middle line. Everybody else, I think, is just waiting for the right moment to flare up and try and develop that third line. You don't want it to do it too early, because if you do it too early, it likely will not work for you.
David Brown thought about trying to cover off Butler, but Butler was already to his right rear as they came off turn number 4. He gets half a car in front. Can he clear him and get down to the inside? Toika's got back to his bumper and he's pushing him hard. 6 laps to go. He's clear. He dives down to the inside, right across the nose of Brown, and Toika now leads the outside lane. Sean Butler leads us in Talladega.
This could get ugly here with the moves that are going on here.
Someone's going to get shuffled out. It's going to be the 27 down to the inside, Patrick Moose. And they wreck up top as well. Multiple cars go around to the back straight away. Caution's out again. There were big blocks from Sean Butler. And he did not want to give up. did Timo Toika. He tried to chase him back and forth, and eventually someone got beat up for it.
That was coming. I think that's why a couple drivers like Jordan Worth backed out as soon as they couldn't get the lead. Seeing exactly what was about to be happening there with so many drivers weaving back and forth, especially down that back straightaway to try and defend, and that's what exactly caused that incident. I seen that happening as soon as they tried to cut off that middle line and come back to the bottom side, because that bubble there opened up the run for the bottom, and bye-bye 27 of the rest of the pack.
Correct myself, it was Spencer, it was David Brown chasing them back and forth across the track, trying to get away by. The blocking is what you expected. Some people won't like it, but it is expected, and I would have been surprised if he didn't block Sean Butler. But for David Brown, at some point he had to give up on trying to chase him down that back straightaway. That last move, just one move too many. Moose had got to his inside with the weaving, slowing him down, and Moose down the inside didn't bring out the caution. Brown almost held onto it, but the car just swung like a pendulum back to the right, straight up in front of the field, takes out a bunch of good race cars, puts us back under caution. Having a look at how many laps to go, getting close to potentially needing to use the green-white checkered here.
Likely might either be a natural GWC or trigger the first of the green-white checkers in the next couple laps or so. I wouldn't be surprised if that isn't the case at this point, but now it becomes a war of attrition all of a sudden, because if you've got a clean race car or you missed that incident, you're definitely not pitting. You're trying to win the race now, and take a look at that left ticker. 3 of the top 6 positions now are Bobby Earnhardt Legacy Esports machines because of that incident.
Just having a look at the cars involved in the crash. Looks like Timo Toika got a piece of it up against the wall. Well, a big piece of it. Ryan Coon as well. Of course, David Brown. Will Norton, Justin Botello, Robert Miller as well got caught up in it. And it looks like that's all the cars that got caught up. Garrett Maines, probably the luckiest driver of them all there, took a hard left turn when he saw that crash and somehow snuck by it as they all wrecked to his outside. He now sits in 3rd in a very good spot. You talk about those Legacy Esports drivers. They can work together here to potentially put themselves in for a good spot. Of course, Garrett Maines running around for Richmond Raceway Esports, part of their junior development program. But he's got a big team contingent from other teams lined up around him.
Yeah, especially with Dustin Johnson going to be starting on the bottom with him. It's just going to be the concern of can they get Salas to that bottom line as well to have that 3-car group. It's going to be tricky, especially with the blocks we've seen from Butler and some of the moves from Max Brady to try and get the job done. But they've got the numbers to do it. Everybody else, though, that's where it gets interesting to see who has enough time to even make their way up here, because, in my opinion, if you're in the top 10, you've got a shot to win this race now.
You do. And in fact, even behind that, knowing the drama that can unfold. Now, if we get the 1-to-go signal here, we will get a regulation green-white checkered. So it won't count towards our 3 green-white checkered attempts. It will be 2 laps to get to the start-finish under normal conditions. But it will be basically the same ruling as a green-white checkered, won't it, Justin? You make it back to the white, you come back. But a caution comes out. It'll take us to what will be our first green-white checkered and into overtime. Let's see. Let's watch the lights on the pace cars that comes across the start-finish. Either way, they're going to have a short, sharp dash. Either way, it's going to be 2 laps to go. Because if the lights don't go out, we're going to get a green-white checkered attempt. I don't believe iRacing allows them to go green for a 1-lap dash, even if it's regulation, Justin.
No, it has to. If you get a caution flag on the last GWC, the race is over at that point. For clarification, and it looks like they will get that trigger next time by to get one of the first official attempts out of that 3 we talked about to finish off this race. Remember, these drivers have to get to the white flag for the race to be official. If there's a caution flag before they get to the white, then they'll do it again until the 3rd attempt. If there's a caution flag, Ryan, on the 3rd attempt before they get to the white, race is official. Race finishes under yellow.
I think this, despite the intensity and the aggressiveness we're going to see. I expect the talent of the field, we will get to the white flag at least one of the 3 attempts. I wouldn't put my money on it being this first attempt though, Justin. We've seen the blocks already from multiple drivers throughout this race. That wasn't the first time we'd seen it. That big block on the back straightaway that time to bring out the caution. People are going to be aggressive. No one is going to lift now. You're full throttle no matter what.
Absolutely agree with you that I think we both expect to see a lot of drivers going full throttle here. However, remember, it takes about a half a lap to a full lap for everything to develop here. If anything was to happen before they get to the white flag, it'd be right here, with drivers trying to get to the bottom line and hold off that run, and then try and set things up for the front straightaway in the trial for coming to the white flag. It will be craziness at this part of the racetrack once we go green in about the next 2 minutes or so.
I said last caution, I was waiting in a bated of breath. Now even more so, Justin. Because this is it. There's no more chances. You cannot think they're going to have another green white checkered. This is it. You have to put everything out on the table now. And the anticipation, the nervousness. You are thinking and thinking again, overthinking almost, how you're going to play out this restart. You can think as much as you like, but the way it plans out in your head, that's probably not going to happen for these drivers, because everyone's got their own idea of what they want to do. As the lights go out of the pace car, attempt number 1 of the green-white checkered finish here on the NIS Series on a Friday night, 9 p.m. Eastern. It'll be Sean Butler and Max Brady, your front row for this restart.
This is going to be absolutely crazy here. I wouldn't be surprised if we see that massive amount of blocking again, especially when we get to the white flag, because it could decide the race. And there have been situations in some of the A-Open official races and some of the earlier NIS events throughout the week that have come down to those aggressive moves down the back straightaway. It's about to get crazy.
I'm nervous. I'm actually nervous. I'm commentating the thing, Justin. Do you get the same feeling when you're commentating and you're going to get a big finish like this?
Sometimes, yes. And I kind of, as someone that normally races many of these drivers, I've got that sense of, if anything happens, it's going to be massive. I can feel it in my bones, honestly, Ryan.
No matter what happens, this is going to be massive. Whether it's a crash, whether it's the battle for the win, whether it's the action to try and get to the front. On the lead lap, there remains 28 drivers, in theory, who could come across with the victory. Timu Toika, the last car on the lead lap. Sean Butler, the car leading them to the green. Butler, the only driver in the top 6 that started in the top 10. Max Brady was 35th at the start and 2 laps down halfway through. It would be a fairy tale if he can pull this off and get it done. But so many drivers want to win here at Talladega. 5,845. That's the strength of field. The talent impeccable. This is it. Green-white checkered attempt number 1 for the NASCAR iRacing Series at Talladega. Coming back to the green flag. 2 laps to go. Back in the air. We're racing once again. And a great restart for Butler down low with help from Maines. No one helping Brady. The 33, nowhere near his back bumper.
And Brady really trying to back up to try and get some type of push on the top line. Just no help coming. Keep an eye on the teammates now as they try to flare.
Top 4 single file. Maines trying to get to the outside. Butler was unsettled and he loses it. So Maines up top with help from the 25 of Dustin Johnson. Where's he been all race? Max Brady gets up to them as well. The outside, bumper to bumper, all pushing through the corners. Out of turn number 4, racing back to the white flag. Can they get there? They're gonna get there, it looks like. One more time around in Talladega, the white flag in the air. Maines cops a big whack from Johnson. He leads him across the stripe. Through 1 and 2. They're 2x2 at the front. Who goes for the big move? Brady's looking high, but he's gonna get shuffled out by the 13 of Vicente Salas. Where's he come from? Sean Butler's back into the lead down low. Huge push from Alex Fox and Seth Knoll. Maines trying to come back up top with Dustin Johnson behind. Still, it's anyone's game. Through 3 and 4 for the final time today. Out of the corner. This is where it gets dicey. Butler tries to block, but Fox gets to his inside. 3 wide for the lead of the race. Through the tri-oval. Down on the apron for Alex Fox. But up top, Garrett Maines. He's going to win at Talladega. They crash across the line, but Garrett Maines gets the elusive victory he's been looking for all season long. He finally gets it here on a Friday night.
Wow, what a crazy finish once again here at Talladega. And I told you, Ryan, to expect the teamwork to come into play. Guess what? It is a 1-2-4 for Bobby Dale Earnhardt's Legacy Esports. What a victory for Garrett Maines, having to try and recover from that damage on the back and rear end from the start of the race. What a way for the team to come away with the big victory tonight.
And what a run to the checkered flag for all those drivers to do it cleanly. There's always a crash at the end, at the line, but for these drivers, it was clean right up until that point. That was the finish we wanted, Justin. A fantastic battle to the end. Garrett Maines, good job for him. He's been here all season long. He's had the rough end of the stick a few times in the strength of the field, but finally he gets the victory here on the iRacing Esports Network. The margin of victory, the top 3 covered by 900ths of a second from Maines to Johnson to Fox. Vicente Salas came across in 4th, Hunter Johnson in 5th. Sean Butler led so close to the end, but only 6 for him. Seth Knoll, Brian Mercurio 7th and 8th. Max Brady and Garrett Strachota rounded out your top 10.
And the rest of the drivers right behind had to deal with a lot of craziness tonight. James Wenzel coming away 11th, Tanner Love in 12th. Jordan Worth, and 1 point, was the pusher on the top line. Lacked the drop back, comes home in 13th instead. Blaze Crawford 14th. Ryan Kuhn involved in the big one. In the last caution flag to 15th, Alec Martinez hit the wall down the back straightaway. Just apologized to some of his fellow competitors for causing that incident. Still comes home 16th. Caden Honeycutt 17th. Sora, Tessier, and Spencer Burns round out the top 20.
Coming home in 21st in this one was Will Norton. Justin Botello behind him. Steven Steffen and Timu Tuika 23rd and 24th. Shreddy Willis, Patrick Moose, David Brown and Raja Caruth, the final cars on the lead lap. Caruth in there to the end. 2 incidents he was involved in. Still comes across inside the top 30. Then the drivers who retired from this race with issues. Matheson and Miller. The last 6 was Strauss, Perry, Eddie Kerner, Justin Levine, Joshua Campbell, and Sean Timmerman. What a race that was.
Absolutely had its craziness mixed in with its intensity, its teamwork, its crazy battles up towards the front. What a way for this one to end at Talladega. What a big victory if you're a member of Legacy Esports, have to say as well, especially with what happened throughout this race throughout the night.
Yeah, most certainly. What a race of attrition it was for Garrett Maines to get himself back into that race-winning spot after being involved in that wreck early, to come back to the front, and he led right when it mattered. Alex Fox was so close. He had the big run, and he went down low. He went to the apron, but he couldn't get enough momentum, and you got to feel a little bit for Sean Butler to not come across with the win, because he led so much at the final stages of that race.
Yeah, Butler played that pretty well, be able to get that himself through to the trouble, through the big ones, get himself as the lead car on the bottom side. was trying to defend like crazy for one of the biggest victories of his 2020 so far. Just in the end, couldn't get the help he needed for the final restarts of this race tonight and just basically got shuffled out.
Certainly did, and just waiting for our race winner to jump in to the interview channel. He's been here before when he's come up just short earlier in the season, so we expect him up here today. Trying to figure out the two drivers that we do have down in the booth. I think one of them is our second place getter, so we're going to have a chat to him, Dustin Johnson, I believe. Good evening, Dustin Johnson, I presume. Second place today, just short at the end.
Yeah, I ran in the back, played it safe all race. Just glad I could help my teammate Garrett get up there and push him to the win.
Talk us through the run to the end, the green and white checkered attempt. How crazy is it from the driver's seat?
It's pretty wild. You're just running wide open, trying to hang on to the run, getting delivered to you in your back bumper, and line up as straight as you can to deliver it to the guy in front of you straight, so you don't turn him around.
You did a pretty good job of that. For you, he said you were pushing Garrett Maines up to the win there. Well, he got the win that he was looking for. Was it in your mind to try and jump out, take it for yourself, or are you dedicated to pushing Maines across, the teamwork working well to get him the win?
I was pretty dedicated. We as a team, we try to take every personal attempt we can win, but I never really had an opportunity, and I was dedicated to making sure one of us had the best shot we had. So that meant sticking about 95% loyal to his bumper. If I would have got the opportunity in the tri-oval, I might would have took it.
Okay, so what could have been 600 short then, but a good victory for the team. The race as a whole, it was a very clean start. Green flag runs the story of the first half of the race, then the cautions cluttering up the finish, but it's what we expect of the Superspeedway. As a driver, what's it like when you're getting closer and closer to the finish? The anticipation starts to rise, but you keep getting balked up by those yellow flag periods.
Yeah, you know the closer you get to the end, the chances of the race getting any cleaner aren't going to happen. So you got to bear with the caution laps and try to keep as cool a mind as you can and just look for the bigger picture on lap 94.
Certainly did a good job of it. Fantastic drive from me today to come across in second, help your teammate get the win. Before we let you go, who are the people that get it done and the sponsors you want to give a shout out to?
Yeah, all my team owners and friends at Bobby Dale Earnhardt, Legacy Esports, Buck Kicker and Abruzzi, Boyd Hogan and Travis Manning for making the awesome set we got to drive tonight. They all did an amazing job.
Well, thank you very much for joining us. You can go celebrate with the team. Hopefully, we get to talk to you next time. Good luck.
Okay, thank you.
That was your second place getter today, just Dustin Johnson. But now, standing by with your race winner, it is Justin Prince.
Yes, indeed. Garrett Maines coming home with the victory tonight. It took some teamwork with Dustin Johnson, but he won by about 6/100ths of a second, give or take. Garrett, how does it feel to finally get the monkey off your back tonight by winning one of these broadcasted NIS races?
That was a huge team effort. I could not have done that without Dustin and Vicente pushing there. Like, they stayed committed the entire time. Even when everybody was dicing it up, they stayed glued, slamming on that bumper all the way around. Just complete team win right there. Everybody worked together so well, and I'm just so thrilled to finally get one of these. I've never even won on a plate track, and the broadcasted plate race, heck yeah.
Yeah, a couple times you actually bobbled off the corners, it seemed, from how big some of the shoves were. But before that green-white checkered finish, especially with Dustin Johnson lined up behind you, Vicente Sal was lined up at 6th for the drop of the green flag on GWC number 1. What was the discussion like between you, your spotter, and Michael Jeans, as well as your teammates, to figure out how do we do this to get our way from 3rd to 1st and keep it that way to the checkered?
Really, it all depended on the start that Max got. With everybody dicing it up there at the beginning, I was kind of nervous, but I think Max got more stalled out than our lane did because I was shoving. The whole goal, I told everybody, if I can get clear of Max, I can get up there. But if we can get our two of our guys clear, we're golden. And sure enough, me and Dustin both got clear, and we took it. Just when he stayed glued to the bumper, like you said, I was getting sideways off the corner. He was on me all the way through the corners. Like I was having to catch it, but we were digging.
Definitely looked like that. Have to ask you as well, though, at some points you did take some licks when there was that first big checkup when one car went off the apron in turn 4. That damaged the wicker bill and the spoiler. In the one of the big ones, had the front nose crushed in. What was the car like having to deal with some of that damage and get it repaired to make sure you had the speed to cut to the checker flag tonight?
I got really fortunate. In that first one, the damage to the rear was actually pretty bad, so I actually had to pit and fix that. But the nose did not damage the engine, and it was very minor cosmetic, which was shocking because I was expecting like a minute. But I guess I was just glued to his bumper so well that when we made contact, I was already kind of slowing down with him. But overall, we honestly were just right place, right time. Like all those big ones at the end that I didn't get involved in, like I barely missed them. I just was wide open at the right place, right time, and just threaded the needle. Because if I checked up, I was in it. It was just all that close. So just very, very fortunate to have been able to, thread the gaps there and get through it. And all of us were lined up there at the end to make a perfect dash to the finish.
Next race on the NS schedule is at Dover. Your thoughts on going to that racetrack and the challenges there?
To be honest with you, I drove Dover a couple of weeks ago on the Cup car, and I was really surprised of how much grip it has this season. I do know they added the safer barriers to the outside, so it'll be interesting to see what that does because that's going to narrow the track up. But overall, with it being low downforce, I think there's so much banking that it's not going to be anything that we're not used to. But I think it's gonna be fun. That's a really challenging track with track position being really, really key, but also just being in the right place and avoiding the mess because there's a wreck there. They all clean out to the inside wall.
Absolutely. Now, is there anyone you want to thank though before we let you go?
I got to thank everybody over at Legacy Esports, especially Dustin and Vicente tonight for making it happen. I got to thank 101 CBD, Strickland Hardy, Richmond Raceway Esports. Also got to thank Gary for the awesome paint scheme tonight. New scheme. Hopefully one coming soon for the truck, but just got to thank everybody that makes it happen. And hopefully we can carry this on to Dover. Had some good luck tonight, so hopefully that keeps up.
Congratulations on the checker flag and the victory tonight, Garrett. We'll see how you do at Dover.
Thank you, sir.
That was Garrett Maines coming home with the victory tonight. Started in 12th position, just 3 laps led to the victory, Ryan.
Yeah, we're going to have a last interview here with someone that came from nowhere, it seemed, at that race. Vicente Salas, 4th place at the line, just short in the end, but a good result for you nonetheless.
Yeah, it was crazy. I mean, I've been in so many of these races, haven't gotten the win yet, but to be able to help Garrett and Dustin for us to get a team finish there, that was incredible, and I couldn't be happier.
Yeah, very good result for your team today. And coming to that finish, we heard from Dustin that he was just trying to get a good result for the team. For you, you came from where did you come from on that restart, Vicente?
I believe I came from 6th. I got stuck behind a few people, kind of poked my nose in, but we made it there. We made it in one piece.
You did that wreck across the line, coming just after it was able to make a difference to the order. In terms of your race as a whole, very good at the start, a lot of crashes towards the end. How was your mindset trying to keep yourself out of trouble? What was your plan for the race, and did it come out sort of how you planned?
Well, I feel like at Dega, you can put a plan in place and it's either going to work or it's just going to totally fall apart. And today I kind of planned to run kind of at the back for the start of the race, kind of try and save some fuel, be able to pit whenever. But under green flag pit stops, I got doored pretty heavily in the pit road, and I almost got put a lap down when one of those cautions came out. And after that, it was kind of just a fight to the front and a brawl to see who could make it up there.
In terms of the pit stop with 35 laps to go under the caution period, At the time, it was right on the cusp of the fuel window. At the time, were you worried at all about fuel if you got a few green white checkered attempts? Obviously, the cautions helped you, but was it ever in the back of your mind?
Oh yeah, I was thinking about it the whole time because that green white checkered, luckily we didn't have another one, but I pit the next caution to kind of secure myself in case there were green white checkered. So luckily it didn't come to that point, but it was definitely on my mind.
Well, thankfully didn't need it, and I think the green white checkered attempt works well for you to come home in 4th place. Hopefully we get to see you back at Dover next week. What are your thoughts heading into Dover? We're going to see you back.
I'm thinking about running it. I love that track, love the challenge. I mean, you're dropping down a 2-story hill basically into each corner, and I mean, there's nothing like Dover. That track is so special to itself, and I'm excited. It should be a fun race, fun track to try and get around.
Well, hopefully we see you there, and hopefully we get to have another chat to you after the race at Dover. Before we let you go, anyone special you want to thank?
I'd like to thank everybody at Legacy Esports, Boyd Hogan, Curtis Sawyer. All the work they put in is amazing. Butt Kicker, Abruzzi Racewear, Wear Hansky Gloves, Musgrave Race Team, and my teammates in that race, Garrett, Dustin, Justin. I mean, they all played a huge part. So, yeah, got to thank all those guys.
Well, thank you so much for joining us up here in the booth. Good job today, and good luck for Dover.
Thank you. Appreciate you guys.
Well, that was Vicente Salas rounding off a very good day for Legacy Esports today.
Yeah, very impressive finish for the team. Had its rough ups and downs, and as talked about, there was the thought process of, do you go up at the front and try and lead laps and keep track position, or do you stay in the back and keep clean? Guess what? The drivers who elect to stay back and keep clean were the ones who finished with the checkered flag tonight.
And with the checkered flag falling on the race, the checkered flag will fall on our broadcast here on the iRacing Esports Network. If you enjoyed it, make sure you drop us a like. If you really enjoyed it, make sure you subscribe because there's plenty more broadcasts from plenty great broadcasters on this channel. Plus, go and subscribe to SimSpeed's YouTube channel as well. You can find us on social media at SimSpeed Esports Network on Facebook, SimSpeed TV on Instagram and on Twitter, iRacing as well on all 3 of those platforms. You can find Justin and myself both on social media as well. Justin on Facebook and Twitter, myself on Facebook. And you can find all our broadcasts on there if you enjoyed it. But for tonight, that's all. Coming up for SimSpeed, a few hours' time, we're going Major Series racing at Charlotte in NASCAR for 600 miles around the famous circuit. So tune in for that if you're still awake over in America, or you're tuning in elsewhere in the world. From myself, Ryan Jones, from Justin Prince alongside, and Jake Kennedy behind the scenes, thank you so much for tuning in, and we will see you next time.
Fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction. He's going in the outside. Both of them. Maloney.
Oh, he's taking Anderson. Anderson's up top.
Oh my God. Big crash. Oh my goodness. Half the field's going to get rolled.
Second very close. These guys I want to make their way through the field very quickly. Oh, there we go.
Oh no.
That's massive. This is it. This is over. I can't believe this. Oh my God.
God, what?